Hi, my friends. Welcome to Inside the Minds of Authors. I'm DC Gomez, your host, and also an indie author. I'm thrilled you're joining me today for another fun interview with a passionate author. We're going to kick off this show with an exciting reading, so let's get started.
Hi, I am Stella Price, and today you are going to be listening to the first chapter of Slumber, narrated by Joshua McCrae, but written by me as Dagmar Avery with the lovely and amazing Kay Margaret.
Kerrigan told her everything. They sat in a large kitchen, bypassing the table that sat 8 in favor of the smaller table that sat 4 in the nook. There was a spread of ziti, garlic bread, artichoke, and stuffed shells laid out. She quirked a brow. Okay, my favorite Italian meal with all the pieces. Are you people spying on me, and for how long? She asked as she eyed the food warily. Kerrigan laughed. I told you, the house is sentient, I guess. You are its mistress. It wants to please you, so it created a meal that you would be happy with. Thanks for that. It's been a bit grumpy for the past few days since it woke, waiting on you. Been feeding me nothing but sandwiches and mac and cheese and ramen. Turning to him, she smiled. Oddly, that's exactly what I've been eating for the past few days. Well, when I could. Mostly it was the ramen. House was in tune with you then. How can you eat like that daily? He asked, and moved to start a plate for her. When you don't have a choice, it doesn't really matter, does it? She said as she accepted her plate and watched as he loaded his own up. I guess not, but you don't have to worry about that anymore. You are here, and things will get marginally better from here on out. They sat across from each other, and she watched him dig in and followed suit, moaning at how amazing the food tasted. It was rare she got a full meal of this caliber, considering her accounts were perpetually on the verge of being overdrawn. So, what the fuck is really going on here, Carrie? She asked, and cocked her head. I think I'm being a pretty good sport with all this, so... Kerrigan smiled at her, a genuine smile. His teeth were straight, as perfect as the rest of him. Okay, well, I guess I should start at the beginning, right? Okay. He took a sip of the water that appeared in front of both of them, causing her to jump back. He looked at her. Shit like that happens all the time. The house anticipates things. You will get used to it. Where was I? Oh, yeah, the beginning. So, you were born here in Vexrenza 28 years ago to Princess Nida and her guard consort, Oberon. Your mother, the dear departed princess of the sleeping court, had you and hid you here in the human world. She then went to claim her throne, something she knew she wasn't going to be able to do, but she couldn't ignore the summons. She was slain through nefarious means by the reigning queen of realm, your Aunt Poppy, head of the Starlight Court. Okay, back up. My mother was killed by her sister? Why? Because she wanted control of Fairy for her shitty people and their agenda, and she's had control for the past 28 years. And my father? She asked softly. Oberon. He died with your mother. She chose only one of her guard, her heart belonging only to him. He was her second, and when she was slain, he joined her, but not without injuring the reigning queen. How did he injure her? Sliced her arm off at the elbow, her main hand of power. I'm told she's had a clockwork arm since, though I haven't been to court to know for sure. Okay, so why was I all of a sudden given this amazing house? Not all of a sudden. After the reigning queen killed the rest of our actual family, Well, the ones that refuse to be absorbed into the Starlight Court. Your mother's closest chose to honor her last decree, keeping you hidden in a city where the queen couldn't find your signature, letting you grow to maturity. Now you will be called, all princesses of the realm will be, on the half year of their 28th birthday, a little under 6 months from now, possibly earlier. Was my mother a twin? He shook his head. Poppy is her first cousin, but the way familial lines work in fairy, she is considered your aunt. Okay, so I'm getting summoned to what? Take over? He winced. To fight for the crown. Your cousin, Princess Adora, Poppy's daughter, turned 28 a week before you and thinks she will ascend uncontested. You have been called and will answer the summons, I hope, and fight for your people, the people that allied with your mother in the sleeping court. She blinked. And the other princesses? She asked, almost giving a hysterical laugh over the absurdity of what she was hearing. Still, his words didn't ring false or that he was crazy. Something told her, deep in her marrow, this man was telling her the truth. Princess Gobeth from the Dank Court has already yielded. She will be 29 in the next 4 months. She has no interest in ruling. Princess Kendala of the Stone Court is allied with Adora, so she won't be involved on a contender level. Princess Candiria from the Grave Court and Princess Naimia of the Blood Court have not yielded or campaigned yet, but I think are waiting and planning. And do they know I'm still alive? She asked softly. He nodded. The day of your birth, a bell toned in the Midnight Palace, saying for each of the princesses of the blood. But because you have been hidden, they thought you died after your mother's court execution. 3 days ago, the bell sounded again. Your court is back in the running for Queen of the Realms. It will be your decision to yield or make a claim and fight for it.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another amazing episode of Inside the Minds of Authors. Today is day 2 of her birthday celebration. This is such a fun and special day for me because I get to have the fabulous Miss Stella Price with us. So, welcome, madam. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm good. I'm awake and it's raining, so it's going to be as good as it's going to get.
It's going to be an amazing day.
Happy birthday celebration.
Woohoo! I've been doing a happy dance nonstop when I realized, oh my God, this is happening. It is officially happening.
It's awesome.
So we're going to talk about this book, and I want to tell everybody, for everybody who's not familiar, the very, very, very first verse harem book that I read is this one. Let me put it this way. I have never been familiar, had no idea what the genre was, had no idea what it was all about. I went to a conference with you last year. I was blown away, your energy, everything. And then Kay said, you should read one of her books. And I did the same thing I always do. I don't read that. Why would I read it? She's like, they're different. And I'm like, okay, I like different. So tell us about it. What is Slumber all about?
Slumber was a book we decided we were going to write just to see if we could, because Kay and I were writing together in just regular paranormal romance. We have an entire 2 series before this. It was something that I wanted to do, and I kind of talked her into it. It's about a girl who finds out that she's a fairy princess. She's been living in New York City alone. She's a painter. She basically lives a very meager existence, finds out 3 days after her 28th birthday that she has a basically family that she's never heard of before. And they are in upstate New York in a place called Vexrenza, which is a paper town, actually, which is pretty cool. She goes up there and finds out that she's a fairy princess. She needs to get herself some guards, and she is going to be vying for the throne of fairy because she is of age.
That is a lot. Let's be honest.
But not really. I mean, I've been writing a long time. I'm writing like over 12 years. When I come up with an idea of a series, the truth of the matter is I try and make it as easy as possible. And then I just add in those details. That is basically the blurb that I just told you without it being in blurb form. It's really not that much, but I mean, there's so many other crazy things that happen in 4 books that you're like, what? Really? So, I mean,
Well, you guys decided to start this because I've read it all. You guys have me hooked. I did not think I was going to enjoy this genre,
well,
but it
thank
is
you.
different. It's a lot of fun. There is actions. You have tons of characters that comes and goes.
Yes.
And because you're dealing in a supernatural world, it's a little easier to handle the court world
Yes.
of all these people loving on one person and they're all getting along.
You know, I'm not going to rip on contemporary RH because it's fantasy, but I do believe that people who have poly relationships in the real world, awesome. I think it's great. But a reverse harem relationship really should stay in paranormal romance because it's easier to handle and it's easier to deal with. Because Kay and I were talking about this weekend about how contemporary RH, it's Mary Sue fantasy. This is straight up a fantasy. There's no way in hell that 6 alpha males are going to be okay with sharing one woman in contemporary society. But in paranormal, it works because they've grown up in a specific way. They've been taught a specific thing. There's a few RHs that I absolutely love. One in particular that are like post-apocalyptic kind of thing. And it's post-apocalyptic, but it's contemporary because it's people, not paranormal. Well, I mean, it's kind of paranormal, but it's more people. And that works too, because again, the breakdown of a society that pushes something as limiting as monogamy. And I'm not saying that as a person that isn't monogamous, because I'm married and I have no issue with it. I can't read contemporary because I'm sitting there like, this is the biggest fantasy ever. It's the same thing with rock romance and everything, because I write those. And I used to be a tour manager, and reading some of these rock romances that I'm like, dude, this is absolute Mary Sue fantasy. Like, this guy is not going to take you on tour with him. You do not understand his lifestyle. Like, that stuff like that annoys the shit out of me. Because if you don't understand what you're writing, maybe you shouldn't write it, because then you're going to give the subject matter a little bit too much of something people are going to think is true when it's not. You know, I have a severe problem with that. But for us, at least in the paranormal realm, everybody in this book, everybody in the entire, I guess, the universe of it, because there's 28 books in this series, everybody in the entire universe of it pretty much knows, you know, that this is their lifestyle. This is how fairy blooms. This is how fairy survives, by not limiting, you know, people in their physicality or the people they love and everything. And not everybody in our things have more than one lover. We have characters that are singles, and you'll see those soon. We have characters that are in a menage, you know, but the princesses in it, they all have a certain amount because of what they have to do, which is filter magic. There's a reason for it. Does that make sense? Like, there is always a reason for it. It's not a bunch of dudes that are just like, I have to have that woman. You know what I mean? Like, there is a reason for it.
It became very interesting, especially from an outside perspective who wasn't familiar with it,
Yeah.
to see this world and kind of fall into it and understand that to some extent I felt like there were pawns at one point in time. Like, okay,
Yes.
like you don't have a choice. Like they're
No, yeah.
automatically, yeah, they're little
Yeah.
pawns, you fall in love, and this is what you're supposed to do. And they tried to explain it's like we're in love, but this is our duty. So duty became a huge word for all these men. And I'm like, oh wow, that's a lot of commitment.
Well, yes. And with Verity's men, it's different because they had been dreaming about her for years. Since she was 16, they had a way to fall in love with her before becoming duty. And there was other men in her life that knew that they were hers, but she never gets them in her life because of the choices they make. It's not just duty where they just show up and this is, you know, this is who they're with, because some of them chose not to be. But the ones that did choose it were 100% in love with her by the time they make it to her, which I loved. And then you go further down the line with the different books, and some of the other princesses have very reluctant guards, very reluctant ones. And you see that through how their relationships work out. I hate reading a series that is the exact same thing over and over and over again. That is not why I read. kudos to those people who find that one story that touches them and they just want it spun out 8 million times with different character names, but the exact same setup, because there's a lot of that out there. Kudos to those people that want that. That is never something I wanted, and that is not something I will write either, because every character and every relationship should be unique. And Kay and I strive to make sure that that's true. We look back and we're like, okay, we did this, so we can't do that, but we could tweak it to do this, and it can be different. None of our characters are the same, and we have tons. None of our princesses are the same. They're all different, and they're not tropes either. That's the whole thing. They could be tropes. I don't believe in tropes at this point. And by that, I mean, like, we had a review for the Sleeping Court series where they gave us a 2-star review, and they didn't like it because Verity grew up in the system. She was, an orphan and everything. And when she ends up in this situation with these men, and the woman that ends up in her life too, that she accepts it. And they're just like, she has no pain. She has no trauma. And I'm like, okay, first off, why does everything have to have pain and trauma? Because we make it very clear that Verity was raised by a very good woman, but that woman didn't love her because she was just a kid, she wasn't family and everything. Verity had been dreaming about these people since she was 16 years old. They were the people that made her feel like family, like that somebody loved her. She uses that to sustain her through all of it. And then when she finally meets these people and she puts 2 and 2 together, there is no trauma. There is no nothing like that, because she didn't hold on to anything from her human life because there's no reason to. And the fact that somebody would hate the book that much because she didn't go through trauma scares the shit out of me. That you have to have trauma because you're in a situation. I'm like, I'm sorry, but like, I have friends that grew up in the system as orphans that are well adjusted. And I have friends that grew up with 2 parents that are the most unadjusted people I've ever met in my life.
Those things have nothing to do with each other. And we have created a society that wants to validate our traumas and our upbringing by the actions that we do as an adults.
Yes, I agree.
Like, we don't have a choice as adults to say, this no longer serves me, I can do better.
Correct.
So now we want to get stuck in this and validate situations and ideas out of things that people probably have let go and have moved on.
Yes. But Verity didn't have a bad life. She didn't in any way, shape, or form. She doesn't have a bad life before she ends up, there. She's a painter, and she might be living on the fringes of New York because you're a painter, you know what I mean? But she had benefactors and she was able to, to live on her own until that point. But this person just could not handle the fact that she did not have any trauma, that she wasn't abused, that she didn't have this. And I'm like, Jesus, really? That is what you find interesting, that you need in a story? That scares the hell out of me. I mean, I'm sorry. I lived through trauma. I don't want to write about it. I don't want to relive it. And I know so many people who don't want to. And what gets me about the people who love the trauma books are the ones that they never experienced that kind of trauma. You know what I mean? Or if they did and they want it again, they really need to see a fucking therapist.
There's a lot more issues in that side if you're looking for books to recreate that over and over.
Thank you.
It's a little bit traumatizing.
It's extremely traumatizing.
Because I'm going, oh my Lord, have mercy. I don't know if I can handle that. I don't want to read that.
I don't want to read that either.
No.
I don't want to. That's why I don't, any of my books, none of my books. I mean, even my older works where my sister and I writing together have some serious trauma in these books, but we just touch on it. We do not bring it out there. We don't, there's characters who went through some shit, but we mention it. They have their reveal story or what have you with their main squeeze in the book, and it's over with. It's not something that is completely in their life all the time. You know what I mean? Like, because again, we don't want to write that,
I find it interesting. You're talking about every one of your princes and every court being different.
Yes.
And I'm already at the Fever Court, which is your new one that is out. By the time this podcast has been out, you probably have 3 more books because you guys write all the time, but that's okay.
Yeah. Ultimate Devotion will be out on March 16th, actually.
Yes. So you have so much more. So the interesting thing is comparing book one to this one, and you talk about how different, because you brought in a whole different court.
Yes.
And they don't have this structure of guards.
No.
So I thought it was beautiful because it's bringing people, regular people, even though they're fae, with regular human.
But they grew up in human world. The light courts didn't live in fairy because of the way that the men that ran light courts, their focus was on money and power, and that's where they could get it, is in the human world. So these courts, these different families and everything, grew up human. So them having a relationship with fairy, because that's exactly what it is. It's not just a relationship with people. It's a relationship with fairy, because this is something they've never had before. Some of them have powers and everything. They don't have the attachment. They don't have the connection to what made them, what gives them that power and everything. So this is different, because where you're looking at slumber and you're looking straight through the nightmare courts, where everybody understands they have power, how they have power, what their power means. You get to the light courts with Theo. She's the CEO of a porn empire. Her family runs the largest pornography website in the world. She grew up without power. She grew up without family besides her parents. She grew up without a court besides her parents. I mean, she has friends and everything, but they're all light court people that basically grew up the exact same way as she did. Some of them. You got the Grainiers, who actually, they're in another court that stayed away from court, being royal and everything. They were, but they just stay away from it. She's got a completely different dynamic than Verity, who grew up human, but became her princess that she is, versus Theo, who is a princess that grew up human and has to figure out everything about fairy, whereas Verity had to do that as well, but she had people that knew what they were talking about to help her along.
Theo has the best line there. She goes like, being fae was a religion, not something that I got. I was like, ooh, that's interesting. Like it didn't make any sense to her. It is this concept that she heard.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah, I'm fae, but it's like saying I'm Catholic, I'm Protestant.
Exactly.
It was nothing.
It was nothing to her.
There was no power. There was no connection. She's never been to fairy. She's never seen the land. She's never seen nothing.
Nope. Her mother's never been to any of that stuff. Yenna grew up in human world. Her and her husband, Justin, who's passed in the books and everything, because that's how Theo becomes the head of her own house. Theo is in her 30s, and she's never had anything besides interaction with other light court fae. And most of them, especially the females, have absolutely nothing. They don't have power. They don't have magical powers. Women are considered a commodity in these courts. And now that these women are not commodities anymore because of what happens, and they are the ones running the courts, it's a completely different power dynamic and power struggle for her.
So tell me, how do you switch gears going, because it's still the same world. You're still in the same universe. You're writing this entire universe structure with the dark court. How do you switch it to light? How does your mind says, okay, we're going to shift completely rules and we're going to keep writing? How hard was that?
Well, it wasn't easy. We had the Ash Court books actually we call them our bridge books, because whereas the Ash Court was considered nightmare, the girl in the Ash Court ends up being a light court princess, because her family was originally light court. And she bridges a gap because she's neither. She's not light, she's not dark, she's both, and she is neither. So we were able to, when we were writing that and bringing one of her males in who was light court, we were able to start thinking about what his court and what his life was about. And then it was like 3 weeks of her and I just literally talking and writing down notes to make sure, because again, all of the people who are in light court, all of the princesses, they all run businesses. Whereas in the dark courts, in the nightmare courts, they don't all run businesses. Verity doesn't run a business. Alex does, but she has a partner. Gogo is a fashion designer, but she doesn't really leave anywhere because of what she is. So she has other people that run her business for her. She's more a princess, These are all women who focus on fairy, with the idea of having businesses to make sure that their courts can thrive in the human realm when they need to. Whereas Light Court has businesses and they're just like, okay, well, we need to find a place in fairy because we don't understand what we do. And with the introduction of, I guess you want to call the fairy ancestral homes, which would be High Brazil for us. It's a giant island that's hidden from humans. I mean, it's pretty cool because there's actually a lot of lore on it in our world, which is really great because it helped us a lot to figure out what we were going to do. There's sections of that entire place that aren't even activated yet because they don't have a court to take care of it. So that's a lot of what's happening through this. Not only are they getting their own courts and magic and everything, they're also getting a tie to fairy that is going to be beautiful for each one of them that fits with their houses and everything. I mean, we talk about this in the Ash Court. So it's just a question of you finding out what everyone gets.
Stella, I love talking to you. Let me just put it this way. And I can talk about your books nonstop, but I love your passion and I love how much you care about not just what you're writing, but the experience you're bringing your readers in. So let's talk about that.
I'm a firm believer in the entire package of the experience of a book. I am an old school reader. I grew up with horror, with Clive Barker and Stephen King and Dean Koontz and Douglas Clegg and James Herbert and all of these bigger horror writers, Saul, even Anne Rice and everything. But what I loved best about them was the fact that there was tie-ins to the worlds I loved. Whether they're movies, whether there was merchandise, whether there was television, artwork, what have you. So growing up, that was a big deal for me. And then I spent 5 years as a tour manager running bands and stuff, punk rock, hardcore, ska, and everything. And I learned that your best way of bringing somebody into your own world is to give them something that is going to tie them to you. Again, merchandising and artwork and visceral things that are visceral that they can hold on to. For us, when we started writing in general, it was all about making it a circle, like a full on experience from the printed written word down to what you wear to bed at night. As a author, a lot of people just don't do that. They write the book, they might do some stickers or something like that, but they don't go further into it because a lot of people see it as a business. They don't see it as a career. We see it as a career. It's that simple. And having a career, you need those career readers, those readers that are your community. I wanted a community. Kay wanted a community. My sister wants a community. So we created a community, a place where people can be as immersed in our world as we can. We want that. That is something we want. We want people to fall in love and stay in love. Not, oh, it was such a good book. Okay, what's the next one? We want them to revisit. We want them to stay there. We want them to be part of it. We want them to tell others how amazing they think the books are because we love our books. I know so many authors that will not read their books afterward. They won't. I have to go back and I have to reread what I wrote because I didn't put it in the Bible. Or, oh, I won't listen to my audiobooks because I can't listen to what I've written. Fuck that, dude. I listen to all my shit over and over and over again because you know what? I'm still writing in those worlds. I'm still keeping it fucking fresh in my head. I am making sure that when I write that next book, when I have that experience for the reader the next time, that it is still the same level of good than it was in the beginning. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And you can see it in everything you do.
You guys are not readers. You guys are our community. You guys are the family that we are slowly building. Because as an author, I do not believe in ads. I do not believe in newsletters. I do not believe in anything that is going to be passive advertising because it does nothing but fill the freaking pockets of whoever is doing the work for you. I know some people absolutely love newsletters. I used to have one. I refuse to deal with it now because I noticed that there are better ways to connect to other people. Newsletters are extremely, extremely impersonal. You send something out twice a month, twice a week, once a week, whatever it is. But you're speaking at them. You're not speaking to them. And I have a problem with that. When we are in our groups, we ask questions, you guys answer them. That's us having a conversation. You guys have suggestions or comments. We answer them immediately. It baffles my mind how many authors don't have a personal group where they can nurture relationships with their readership and make a community for them. I don't understand why people would spend, $500 a week or a day on ads just because they want the money. I want the longevity. The money will come. And while I think that some people are in this just for the money and just the business, and that's fine. If that's what you're into, then go for it. But I've been in this industry for over 12 years because of the way I look at it. And the amount of authors that I started with that are no longer here is about, I think one of my other girlfriends and I who started writing around the same time, we were talking about this about a week ago. I think we figured out that about 90% of the authors that started when we did are gone.
What do you mean?
Because they don't write anymore.
Oh, at all?
Yeah, a lot of the authors that we started with don't write anymore for some reason. Some of them have passed away. Okay. When I started, it wasn't all about indie because it wasn't. We were small presses and we were New York. Indie was something you laughed at because you couldn't get the distribution for indie and stuff like that. Like that's why myself and Karen North and a friend of ours put together a publishing company because we needed a small press publisher to be taken seriously. Like things like that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of authors that started writing then were put onto publishers immediately because you kind of had to be. And a lot of them, when publishers started dissolving, just realized that they did not have the skills or the want to keep writing because they had to do all the work themselves. So a lot of them just said, you know what? As much as I like to write, I'm not doing this anymore. Some of them were absolute shitheads and screwed their own careers by becoming assholes. Some of them, I guess, the easiest way could be, they stepped on their friends to get higher. And then when shit happened, like when everything bottomed out, I think it was 2013 maybe, 2013, I think it was when the paranormal industry bottomed out and so many people got their contracts from New York crushed like halfway through a series because they weren't selling. People stopped writing because what were they going to do? They don't understand. They need that distribution. They need that. They don't realize that you can do things yourself. Some people just had one story in them and they did really, really well with that story and then they're done. Some people just had one series in them and they did really, really well with that series and now they had nothing else. They're not going to redo it. So a lot of people that we started with are gone. It is what it is.
Tell me, madam, because I can talk to you forever.
Yeah.
For an up-and-coming author, what advice would you give them?
Don't publish your first frickin' book.
Okay. Why?
Again, I've been doing this a very long time. When I started, when you publish, you don't publish your first book just to get out there because you want money and you want to be accoladed. And oh my God, I'm having a book out. We're just finishing it now. No. Fuck that. No. Learn your craft. Learn your voice. Don't publish something if you don't have a voice. That pisses me off to no fucking end. When I started writing, my sister and I were writing together. We had written at least 2 books before we started publishing. We didn't find our voice publishing. We published with a voice. And if you think your voice is just you writing first person in present tense, because you've read 7 or 8 books that do that, it's not your voice. That's you parroting out what you've already read. I have a problem with that, a severe problem with that. I believe that you need to find who you are and your platform, what you want this to be. And people might not agree with me and I don't give a shit because again, I've been around for 12 years because I did it the right way. And people are constantly, oh, well, I'm a reader, but I'm an author too. I'm going to be an author in the next 6 weeks because I'm putting out my book and I'm about 3/4 of the way done with it. You're 3/4 of the way done with it. You're putting it out in 6 weeks. Girl, you better go back in there and you better rewrite that bitch at least twice. Now, here's the deal. At this point, Kay and I don't do that. We do not rewrite books. And I don't do that either. Why? Because I went through that and I understand my voice now. I understand how to keep sure that I don't have any holes in my plots or I don't have any threads that aren't picked up and everything. I understand how to write a story. And most people that have been writing a long time do, because we were taught that way. We were taught to pre-edit, to personal edit before it went to your editor. We were taught sentence structure and story structure and grammar and all these things. And a lot of these people just don't. And I am a firm believer that you need to learn your craft before you publish. And it's extremely evident that the majority that are publishing now do not understand that, and they do not do that. And I don't care if somebody, oh, well, she's being a bitch for saying it. Yeah, I am. But I'm sorry. You should have some form of respect for your own career and be able to put out a quality product. Again, it's quality versus quantity. The people who put out a book without editing it, and then, oh, well, I'll go back and edit it once people tell me what's wrong with it. Bitch, you better go get that edited. What the fuck is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? Get a good editor, learn editing. And if you have to go through 7 rolls of edits, you probably shouldn't publish that book. You should probably learn how to write correctly. That's the way I see it. Learn how to fucking write.
I think a lot of people want to rush it. They truly want to rush.
They do. They want to be popular. They want to be part of the situation. It's very high school, how they want to get it out immediately and everything. And people are like, yeah, but you put a book out a month. We do. I've also been writing for 12 years. I also understand how to release a book, A, and B, I also know how to write a book so that we don't have any problems. There has been, Kay and I have written, as of right now, we have written over 30 books together. In fact, we've written over 40 books together at this point. It's only been one book, and that was our first book together that we had issue with our editor about either a thread being not sewn in correctly, quote unquote, or a plot hole.
It's interesting because a lot of people have really good stories and that should be told.
Yes.
But take your time telling the story.
Thank you. Yes. I mean, there's been a few books that I've read recently where I've gotten halfway through the book because I really like the idea of it. And I've pushed and pushed and I can't make it the rest of the way because I know that it's a great idea for a story, but they need to learn how to write it correctly because again, if you write it correctly, it can be timeless. You know what I mean? I want my books to be timeless over being a bestseller.
That is beautiful. That is very profound.
It's true. That's what I want my books to be timeless. A bestseller means that I'm making money for a small amount of time and that book can be completely forgotten. I don't want that. I want my books to end up when I am long dead, a tree in a haunted forest somewhere. I want my books to transcend. I want my books to keep on. I want somebody that is going to find my print book because I am telling you right now, we are going to go back to that. It's all secular. Get your books in print. Do it. Make sure because it doesn't matter how much technology grows. People are still tactile. They still want something in their hands.
Oh my God, I love print books. What are you talking about? I have an entire library that I'm trying to clean out because I don't have enough space. And figure out
why do you think we bought the bigger house?
Oh my God. All right, sweetie. I could keep you here forever. So we're going to switch gears. We're coming to the end of our interview section. We're going to our lightning round.
Uh-oh.
Please. Easy peasy. Don't think too much of it. Whatever comes into your mind. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
So let's do this. Cold drinks or hot drinks?
Hot drinks.
Okay. Gummy bears or Sour Patch?
Sour Patch.
Star Trek or Star Wars?
Star Wars and Star Trek. I can't really, it depends on the day. It really does. It depends on the day. And it also depends on which we're talking about. Because if we're talking about like Star Wars, the Holy Trinity versus Star Wars, the first 3 episodes versus Star Wars, the last 3 episodes versus Star Wars Rogue One. I mean, that's a whole nother thing. And then it's the same thing with freaking Star Trek. You know, we're talking about Discovery, or we're talking about Babylon 5, or, I mean, come on, dude. You can't just ask that question.
Only when you break it down to that point that I realized this is a lot deeper than I thought.
It is a lot deeper than you thought.
I'll let you have both. It's okay.
Thank you.
That's way too much. Right? So here's a little different one. Let's see how you do. Do you have any animated character that best describes your personality? What will you pick?
Oh, God, that's a hard one. I'm going to say Daria from Daria.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm going to be honest, it'd probably be between Daria and Jane. So animated characters, those are my spirit animals. They are.
Okay. I love it. So here's our last one. Let's see how you do with this one. If you could meet any famous person, dead or alive, who will you meet?
You know, that's a hard one because there's so many amazing people that are dead out there. And a live person, the truth of the matter is I have a tendency to meet people I want to meet anyway. So if they are still alive, if they were dead, it'd even be awesome. But no, if I was going to meet somebody that was going to be dead, I would definitely want to meet my great-grandfather. He passed away when he was 35 from a heart attack. The only pictures we have of him and my grandmother look so similar. By all accounts, he was a lunatic like my grandmother is. My grandmother's the coolest chick ever. So I would want to meet my great-grandfather. Because again, my grandmother knew her father for a year. Like she was a year old before he passed away. It's important. You know what I mean? Like I'm blessed in that I got to meet my great-grandparents for the most part. And I just lost my grandfather in August of this past year. And my grandmother is 93 years old and she's still alive. And she is kicking it like crazy because she's a lunatic. She also looks like she's like 74, so it's even better. They both were really, and they both were young looking, you know what I mean? And my grandparents were together for 70 years and everything. So they were together. My grandmother was 18. My grandfather was 16 when they got married. And I know it's crazy, right?
Absolutely
like, wow. Crazy, yeah. And I mean, they were together forever. And I was blessed enough to be able to know my elders. And I would have liked to know my great-grandfather as well, like just to have him in there. Because I knew my grandmother's and I knew my grandfather's father as well. He was crazy too. But I knew both my great-grandmothers on that side and everything. So I would have liked to know him. I would have. He would have been pretty cool.
That is absolutely so touching. I love it.
Yeah, it's probably the most you're going to get out of me that's ever touching. Usually it's just vile and hate. So
for our listeners, I need to kind of put a disclaimer in here because she talks about hating people, but she hates them in the most loving way because she's also the one person that takes complete strangers out of the blue and says, "What do you need and how can I help you? Come here, little girl." So it is such a contradiction because you are officially one of the most loving and giving authors and persons I have met.
My problem is that I don't suffer fools. That's my thing. And the amount of people that are fools right now is copious. So apparently I hate everybody. Apparently I am a bitch and apparently I'm horrible. But the truth of the matter, I just don't suffer fools. If you aren't a professional, if you can't handle your life, if you can't handle your shit, I just can't deal with you, you know, because if I'm sitting here, I mean, yeah, I'm in my 40s. I don't have children, but I have a full house I run. I have my actual job. I write books and I'm putting out a book a month and I run a freaking convention. If I can have time to get things done, my ass, you can too. I don't need to deal with, extra bullshit. That's where I'm at. I don't have a PA. I don't have a VA. I don't have any of that shit. I do everything on myself because I'm a goddamn professional, because I've learned how to do it. Recently, I've gotten a lot of, "Oh, well, can you just deal with my PA?" Fuck no, bitch. What the fuck do you think you are? Like, professional courtesy. Like, if I'm taking time out of my day, you better take time out of yours to deal with me.
Amen.
But again, I'm a bitch because I expect that from people. So that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, I am. And I'm honest, and people don't like that. People need everything to be sugar-coated, and they need to be treated with kid gloves. And quite frankly, you don't do that in the corporate world. Why the fuck would I do that in this? I mean, honestly, I just can't. I just You can't.
So for listeners, you're always going to know where you stand with Stella. Let me put it this way.
Yeah,
You're
100%.
always
You
going to
might
know.
not like it. You might not like where you stand with me, but you
But
will
you're going to
know.
know.
You're going to know. That's right. You're going to know.
Where can our listeners find you, learn more about you? Where can they find your books? Tell us.
Well, you can find all of our stuff on Amazon. You can just look up Stella Price, and all of my books are on there. I also write under Dagmar Avery, and I write under Anastasia Vergas. You can find me on Facebook. Unless I talk to you, I don't actually add people to Facebook, because if we're not speaking, there is no reason for me to add you to my Facebook. You want to find me, I'm on Amazon. You want to talk to me, you can Facebook me, and I will talk to you. I have no problem with that. And unless we are chatting, I will not add you to my Facebook account. But you can also find us in our reader groups. If you're just a reader and you are reading our books and you just want to be involved in that, we have a Facebook group called the Nightmare Courts Party Room. And you can definitely find us in there, and you can chat with us. And you can tell me I'm a horrible, evil bitch if you come in there, and I'll tell you thank you. I'm okay with that too. Other than that, we don't have a newsletter, and my website has not been updated in 7 years. So there you go.
Love it. I love it. So, madam, it has been such a pleasure to have you here.
Yes, always. And I'm excited because I get to see you in the summer.
It's about time.
I know.
Like, come on. I keep
know.
looking at my watch. I'm like, when is August getting here? Because we need to make it to Savannah. I can't wait.
Oh my God, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be absolutely crazy.
So listeners, for anybody interested in joining us in Savannah,
yes,
you still have an opportunity to join the group, to sign up and register. Registration doesn't end till May
1st,
so
May 5th.
So you have about a month to come in, join the party, meet some incredible authors, and have the best experience in this con. So you can check out Literally Love Savannah group on Facebook to get more information and sign up, because I'm going to be there. Stella's going to be there.
It's going to be there. It's so much fun. We have the best time. I mean, the truth of the matter is there's no other convention out there for readers, not like this. And everything that we do is focused on the readers. I mean, we have the blind date book party that we do. We have all the different meals, the ball. We have the 2 different signings. We have an open bar. This year we'll have a harvest carnival with inflatable slides, and we'll have trick-or-treating, and we're going to have a haunted house that is going to be set up in the place just for us, because this year's Summerween is the theme of it. It's super fun. The event is for readers, $200, includes 4 meals, but there's actually going to be 5 or 6. I think we figured out all together. There'll be some extra breakfasts put in there. There is 2 amazing signings. There's the Thursday signing, which is for new releases and bundles. And Saturday signing is open to the public. And yes, we are in the world of COVID right now. Yes, everyone is having to deal with that. But, and DC can tell you, we did the convention last year in Savannah. Everybody was safe. Nobody had a problem. We had over 100 people there. Not one person got sick. We had several nurses that showed up to the event, went home. Not one of them was carrying nothing. We are 100% committed to keeping everybody safe, keeping everybody happy. The hotel is a 5-star hotel, so they keep everything super clean. It is a great, great time. So if you are a reader, if you like romance, if you like sci-fi, if you like genre work, this is the event to come to, because you can find your tribe there. 100% find your tribe.
It's absolutely a blast, everybody. You will love it, because I had a blast. It was my first time, and for most of you guys realize I don't write romance, but I do urban fantasy.
Sure.
And it was perfect. I got to meet some incredible people, and it was extremely safe, and it was so comfortable. Mm-hmm. Very, very chill, very, very relaxed. So hopefully you guys join us.
As long as you follow the rules, things are okay. It's super easy.
It was super easy. So thank you so much, everybody. So like I said, it is our birthday celebration. And for everybody, go ahead in the link. I have a download for you guys. It is free. It is my cheat sheet, 4 easy steps to go from an idea to a possible, how to flesh it out to start your book if you're interested. Easy, nothing too crazy. And thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for listening. Go ahead, give this podcast a like, share with your friend, and we'll see you again tomorrow with another exciting author. Bye, everyone.
Bye.